Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. Sean Payton met with the media on Thursday morning, and it was, or after late morning, afternoon. It was his opportunity, so the season-ending press conference. So he went through a lot about the season. He did talk about the Ryan Nielsen situation. He talked about the quarterbacks, the cap, all that situation. So let's dive into some of this. First of all, here's Sean Payton talking with his takeaway from this season, which ended, of course, prematurely, certainly of what we had all hoped.
You know, the first thing, obviously, in light of this year's season and all the testing and COVID protocols, I thought this team, particularly this team, and I told them afterwards, was outstanding in so many areas relative to some of the adversity and distractions. And I thought it was a tough-minded group. I was proud of them. I mean, it's going to end well for one team, and having experienced that before, we know what that's like. But I thought on a number of occasions, when it would have been easy to look at it, with a glass half empty type of outlook, I thought these guys really battled, and that was encouraging.
One of the really unfair, life's not fair, but one of the really unfair things about not only this season, but about this era of Saints football is when the bar is set at and acknowledged by the players as Super Bowl or bust. Anything short of that feels like a failure. But there were so many great successes. I mean, just quite honestly, getting this season, getting this team on the field, getting through camp with all of the COVID, everything throughout the year, just going through a modified training camp, not having really an off season. If you remember back where there was sort of a voluntary quarantine at a hotel in New Orleans that players could choose to do, and they had full buy-in. And, of course, that all followed the social unrest from this summer, which, of course, engulfed this team because their leader, Drew Brees, got embroiled in that. And I'm not here to talk about the particulars of that, but just understanding that was more adversity they had to face collectively and did so to get on the field and to have the product that they did. And then to go through the season, face some early adversity where the defense wasn't playing particularly well, only to find your footing and turn that around, and then to have Drew Brees suffer the injury for the second consecutive year that kept him out for about a month. And then you have Taysom Hill starting at quarterback. It was just one of those years where to be there at 12-4 at the end of the season and winning a playoff game is remarkable considering everything they went through. And some of those things clearly should be celebrated, but it's hard to when you didn't reach what was your ultimate goal. And maybe in time we'll be able to look back and celebrate some of those things, some of those individual performances, playing without Michael Thomas for more than half of this season, missing Drew Brees, as we mentioned, Alvin Kamara, who really carried this team offensively for the first half of the season with Michael Thomas out. And we were talking about Kamara as a legitimate candidate for NFL MVP and certainly Offensive Player of the Year early in this season. So there were a lot of great successes for the New Orleans Saints, but moving forward now, there's a lot of giant question marks. Now, you still have a great core of players, and you've got some really good, talented young offensive linemen. Of course, you have one of the most dynamic offensive players in Alvin Kamara. You have one of the best receivers in the NFL, Mike Thomas. You have an all-pro linebacker in Demario Davis. Marshawn Lattimore is going to be back for you. You've still got Cam Jordan and some really good young interior players as well. We have to see what happens with Sheldon Rankins, but David Onyemata's under contract. There's a lot to like about what's coming back, but similarly, you have a conversation about what you're losing, and that's all also interwoven with the salary cap conversation. So Sean Payton today was talking about roster management and their current cap situation.
I'd like to think it won't. I think what we don't know is take the player you're referencing, which could be any player. Well, what's the number for that player to get him back, or what's the number that someone else may be interested in signing him? Obviously, we have to wait to see where that cap number falls. and we'll begin the process of studying the roster and looking closely at those decisions. But I think that we've always found a way relative to certainly the players we know to work through some of the challenges and some of the obstacles and put the best team on the field that we feel like is possible, and that will be something that won't change this year. Will it be challenging? Yeah, I'm sure it will be, but certainly, we'll be looking at solution-based decisions that we feel like are best for the Saints.
As we've talked about, some of those very obvious players that won't be back. Drew Brees, we all assume, will not be back. Quan Alexander certainly won't be back at his $13 million price tag. They could negotiate a new deal to bring Quan back that's more team-friendly. Jared Cook most certainly won't be back. There might be guys like Thomas Morstead, who has played potentially his final game with the New Orleans Saints. Of course, Morstead and Brees were the two remaining players from the Super Bowl champion. Obviously, you brought Malcolm Jenkins back, and he was on that team as well. Malcolm Jenkins is likely back next year because his deal is more cap-friendly if he is playing for the Saints as opposed to a dead cap hit if he's not playing for the Saints. And he really played well toward the end of this year. But the giant question is going to be, which of your free agents can you keep? Can you keep Marcus Williams? Can you keep Trey Hendrickson? We say it all the time. You can't pay everyone, so you're going to have to choose. Now, you're also going to have to make a decision about quarterback, and this is the most obvious one. Who's Drew Brees' heir apparent? Sean Payton has always talked highly of the guys on the roster, but as you look down the list of what direction you might go, do you go for a veteran, a Matt Stafford, a Matt Ryan, a young veteran? Do you try to break the bank for Dak Prescott? That's unlikely. It's unlikely Dallas lets him get away, but that's a possibility out there. Or do you address it in the draft? But realistically, you just heard Mike Detillier say he thinks five quarterbacks go in round one of this year's draft. Are you going to be able to get value at that spot late in round one or in another round, especially in a year where you don't have this great opportunity for talent evaluation with the combine and in-person workouts? So it's going to be a great challenge trying to replace the greatest player in your franchise's history at the most important position in team sports. But here was Sean Payton kind of giving his overview of that quarterback room.
I'm real confident in the players. We have a real good room. I'm excited about Jameis Winston. I'm excited about Taysom Hill. Those are guys that we've had a chance, obviously, to see for a period of time. Not as long, maybe not as much time with Jameis, but and I think that we'll handle it accordingly. I mean, that position's important. It's vital, and that's why we've paid attention to like an off-season signing like Jameis, or paid attention to keeping Taysom here. We knew there's a chance at some point in time we'll be dealing with the transition, and we're going to try to be as prepared as we can when that time comes. And so I really like the prospects of those players, and having seen them, up close and personal.
I would say that there is one undeniable reality with respect to Jameis Taysom, however you want to look at it. They know far more about those two players, having had them on the roster, than they would if they were just evaluating someone from afar. So if they do decide that they're going to bring Jameis Winston back and give him an opportunity to be their starting quarterback, I would have a lot of confidence in Sean Payton's evaluation and looking at that guy and his ability to mature and become a franchise caliber quarterback that can be a championship quarterback. If the Saints are willing to make that investment, we'll see, but I don't know that they have the option to make a franchise-type investment in a free agent, so your only other option, it would seem, would be the draft. Who would you have more confidence in? A rookie quarterback that you don't have the opportunity to fully evaluate, or a guy that has been on your roster for a year and that you've seen play professional football for 5 seasons? There's certainly less risk with one of those than the other. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.